All right. I believe you and I have had this conversation actually. I remember a few years ago when I did my 21-day communion with the fire, that really got me contemplating on being the first people who discovered fire. Like, what did that look like? Did the lightning strike and they were there when it happened, or did they just come up to the fire? Like, I'm sure they tried to touch it, but maybe they didn't. And I just could only imagine that experience. And then to think about all of the many ways that fire helped evolve people. They had fire. They could be a little bit more stationary. They could cook their food. They could stay warm. They probably lived longer. And yeah, so if you desire to share any more about that thought process and that insight.
Yeah, I don't think so. I can just imagine being those first people, and I just think about how, like, in the lower chakras and primal things were back then. So how, like, kind of startled and fearful they might be of the fire at first, and then once they realize, can't have too much or too little, and how to control it and contain it and stuff. It changed their whole world. It changed our whole world.
Right.
And yeah. So, and I just feel that, like, within us too. It's like when we have too much fire, of course, it's gonna blow everything up and just destroy everything. And then when there's not enough fire, things just get too stagnant, too heavy. And so yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. And so that reminds me too, that balance within your fire. Like, I remember when I was communing with the fire, how, I had this clarity. You can't throw all of your fuel in at once. Just like you said, it'd be too hot, it'll burn out too quickly. It has to be this sustained, like feeding the fire and, stroking the flame and all of those other phrases that come through with the fire. And so that's something I learned as well. And then you were also talking about boundaries, from the fire, and that's also something I learned, that container of keeping the fire contained in whatever location that you desire, because there are wildfires that happen. So yeah. So fire is like this delicate balance or threshold of balance, of that equilibrium of, like, putting fuel in, not too much, not too less, not getting too close and close enough, learning how to utilize this really wild element to our benefit and safely. And so that right there, in my opinion, is like the epitome of boundaries, is how fire is contained so differently in many different ways. And these are important for safety, for accuracy, for sustainability and longevity. Like, look how how fire has encouraged us to evolve, as you were saying. It's so beautiful. I just love looking at this flame picture on here too. And this fire's still going. That's good. I put a lot of wood in there. So, and I know that you, some of you may be aware of these things. It may be things that you've heard before. It may be a refresher. So just allowing, the fire to come in with that purity lens, of that, like, refreshed lens, and receiving what you're meant to receive. So I definitely think of vitality and passion and transformation, because the fire, you have these logs and it literally burns them away into ash, like a completely different, it's wood and then it's ash. Like, it's so different elements at that point. So beautiful. And then the south represents the summer and the midday and like the full light of the sun, when the sun is the highest in the sky. And when the sun rises, it awakens us. And it also encourages creativity. When you're warm and comfortable, and cozy, and you're feeling your courage and your bravery and your confidence, like that's when our creativity shines beautifully. And as you were talking about having enough fire to not be stagnant and taking like discerning action, within your choices. And then of course courage is the fire within us. And fire purifies, burns everything down so new life can be birthed. And of course, burning away the old, so symbolic with fire. That's why burning things is so powerful. Writing affirmations and burning them, burning old journals or things that have been stagnant in the home for a while. Paper holds a lot of energy with the words we write, and so revisiting old journals. Oh yes. So an affirmation can be, I stand in my power. Yeah. I'm radiant and alive in the light of God's creation. I am always in my power and radiant and alive in the light of God's creation. That feels very fiery, like just so steady and bold. Yeah. I love the thinking of how the fire in my fire pit, that it's fire of the sun. The sun, that's part of the sun somehow in this fire pit. And so fire is like energy and motion. And I'm like, how is this happening? Like, how is this happening? And I know the sun is like lava and stuff, and that's fire. Like, there's fire in there. And light illuminates, in the dark, the fire brings the light. And it's up to us to choose if we're going to allow that fire to burn, or if we're going to allow the fire to be just enough. And I also love that analogy about, not putting all of your fuel in out once, and you burn out really fast. That used to be me in the past. Like, I would just go hardcore at certain things, and then I would burn out. And so I definitely have learned sustained energy, sustained movement, rhythms, And when we have a balanced fire, we feel vital, joyful, and full of passion and purpose. And obviously as women, within our cyclical nature, these ebb and flows. And then excess fire, energy, anger, burnout, impulsiveness. And then stagnant or low fires, apathy and fatigue, and self-doubt and confusion and decisiveness. And the direction of fire is the south. And even think about when we go to South America, go south and get closer to the equator, like it's hot, And the colors are red and gold and orange and yellow. In the season of summer, And again, the day is the midday sun, the high noon, the peak of the day. And when I think of the animal for the fire, I automatically think of the dragon. That's the first animal I think of. And then the lion, like the Leo. The hummingbird is an interesting one with the sun, and that makes sense too. The movement, their colors. So just a few animal allies, the coyote, the jaguar, and all of these in their own unique way have qualities of the fire. Like the jaguar to me reminds me too of even the after effects of the fire, more so like the ash and the ember. And the hummingbird reminds me of like that first like initial spark, and then the lion makes me feel like more of that sustained fire energy and that sustained brightness. And that coyote's kind of like the unpredictable side of the fire. Neat how animals share those insights. So symbolically, metaphysically, energetically, the fire in the body. I love thinking about the metabolism and the heat in the body and the energy of the organs and the heat that is in our body that creates steam and moisture and evaporation. We're like little steam engines slightly. And then our solar plexus, our manipura, as we started our experience together, as we toned in with the chakra, the solar plexus. And I don't know if you felt it, but when I was in my ROM, I did feel this sense of confidence. And so, what this toning really encourages in us was to recognize what's going on in the throat and the body as you're toning. Do you feel balanced? Do you feel overpowered? Do you feel stifled, within that toning experience? And things we can practice is simply being out in the sun. Being out in the sun, being by the fire, being by the light, wearing yellow or red or orange, sitting with a candle. All those things can inspire more heat and warmth. Or maybe your environment, maybe you work with fire and you require a little less fire. And so some questions to contemplate within our fire experience is, what lights me up? What lights you up? What brings passion? What brings forth your heart song? What brings forth your confidence? What lights you up? What brings forth your sense of purpose? I just heard the gooses flying over. And the sun. The sun teaches us the consistency of the benefits of consistency, of dedication, of devotion. The sun comes up every day and shines and gives us light. The rooster sings its praises. The rooster is another animal of the sun. It sings the sun awake. And of course, radiance, shiny, gold. We are here to embody the qualities of the sun. And I love these awarenesses. You know, the sun does remind us when it rises that this is a new day. This is a fresh new start. It's that threshold space, you know? That threshold from sleeping to waking, in between nighttime consciousness versus, you know, waking consciousness, nighttime, daytime consciousness. And then the sunset is the reminder to let go and rest and surrender. And to commune more deeply with the sun, you can wake up at sunrise, stand outside during sunrise and gaze at the sun. Notice how it shines down on you, or even the midday sun. And so to just expand on some practices for integration with the fire and deeper communion with the fire. Again, sun gazing, rising with the sun, or even sitting as the sun sets and watching the sun lower down. Or greeting the sun at dawn or dusk with a prayer, with gratitude, with just a pause of recognition. And then movements to inspire more solar energy, more fire, more action, is to choose aligned movement practices. Dancing, yoga, walking, running, jogging, shaking, getting animalistic, growling, walking on all fours. That really encourages your primal fire. And then some creative things. Paint the fire. Paint the sun, draw, color, buy a piece of artwork or just admire some art of the sun or fire. Watch a video of the fire if you don't have access to one. Sit with the candle. And practice speaking from your place of your sacred desires, your passions, your purpose. And then I mentioned this earlier, burning old notes, like this can help embody an aspect of the fire of cleansing. You know, lots of us have journaled over the years. I remember at one point I had some journals that I had had for 10 years, and the energy and the emotion that was in there, I had healed from that, and it no longer served a place on my shelf. And there were quite a few of those, and I remember burning those, and the actual like physical experience I had of letting that past go was quite beautiful, and how it did turn into ashes, you know, for the years to come. So it's a beautiful practice, and I highly encourage that too. Or even if it's just like some notes or letters or cards or, you know, things that you feel called to let go of. And some scripture from the Bible. Our God is a consuming fire. Hebrews 12:29. Just take a moment. So how do we even comprehend that? You know, like, wow. I know how I can comprehend it, you know, gazing at the fire, but to think of like God being a fire. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. We are always God protected. We are always God's light. And just to contemplate, you know, fire refines. purifies. And it doesn't destroy what's true, it reveals what's true. Beautiful. Let your spirit burn bright with holy purpose. That's the fire's message to us. Let your spirit burn bright with holy purpose. The sun has a holy purpose for us, you know. And we have a holy purpose. And you're reminded of that every day. As the sun rises and sets. So, take a deep breath in. And exhale. We'll take a few moments for a reflection and some journal prompts if you feel called to any of these. What ignites my heart and calls me home to action? Where do I require to set clearer, energetic boundaries? Where do I require to set clearer, energetic boundaries? What am I ready to let go into the sacred flame? What am I ready to let go into the sacred flame? One more. How can I let my light shine more boldly and humbly at the same time? How can I let my light shine more boldly and humbly at once, at the same time? We'll have a few moments here, and also this is a good time to, if you're requiring a bio break, water, movement, we'll take about a 5-minute pause, and you can continue flowing with these prompts, and you can also just gather any things that you are requiring with you right now too.